Hey there, before we get to the episode, I just want to encourage you to follow This is Saskatchewan on your favorite podcast app. I'm Jenny Whitfield, and I'm one of the many CBC journalists in this province covering local news for you. You may have heard me on this podcast before. I live here and I care a lot about what's happening in my community and yours. And if you hit follow right now, you'll be the first to know each time an episode drops. Okay, let's get to the show.
Hi, I'm Leisha Grabinski. This is Saskatchewan. Raise your hand if you're tired of tipping.
When you pay with your card or your phone, it's everywhere now. Like it says, oh, would you like to give us a tip? But you're placing the order at it's not even a restaurant.
If you're ordering a coffee and you're supposed to tip the cashier, I don't think you should. You're kind of paying them extra to do their job. That's what I think.
People call it tip creep, where more and more places are asking you to tip. We're also contending with tipflation, where you're being prompted to tip more and more and more, 15, 18, 20%. Out of Order Coffee in Saskatoon says enough is enough. It's right there on their Instagram. No tipping. Matthew Horning is the co-owner. I had coffee with him because I wanted to know more.
I think from a very base level, I think we're just kind of tired of the tipping culture and where it's gotten to. You know, you go to a place where you're paying the price of a meal or a beverage or whatever it happens to be that is the most expensive we've ever been, and that's obviously an entire other conversation. But on top of that, you still have to tip the staff. And being in that industry, we understand that tipping in places is a necessity because those workers aren't paid enough.
They're relying on the tips.
They have to have tips to pay their rent. If they don't have tips, their base for what they make is nowhere near enough to be able to pay rent, to buy groceries, to pay for their car insurance, for their benefits, whatever they might happen to have. It's just not enough. So they rely on it. They have to make tips. It becomes this sort of desperation, and now you go into places where the minimum tip option on the machine is 20%, 22%, 25%. Sometimes the no tip option is blanked out. You can't even select it.
You can't find it.
We're almost forced to. So for us, that just creates such a pressure on the people coming into your establishment, trying to order or just trying to buy something, because not only are they contending with the price of your item, but now they have to do that math. And with that becomes some feeling of maybe guilt or annoyance or anything, and it becomes less about what you're giving them and just how much you have to pay for it. So
when people come here and they look at the price, the price is listed on your menu.
Yeah.
Are the tips worked into that? Is it more to buy a cup of coffee here?
Ultimately, yes. The answer is yes. But the price of our items are just dictated by the cost of those items. Right now, coffee is the most expensive it's ever been.
Are they still buying your coffee?
So far, so good, yeah. So really, I think at the end of the day, from what we've heard, is people are just happy to support living wages. They're happy to support people who are happy with their job, happy with the place that they work, and people who are able to get that living wage and also receive benefits, to have an employer that is taking care of them and is not simply driven by collecting a profit.
What do you do if a customer wants to leave a tip?
We just ask that they don't. That if they're looking to put extra money into something, there's hundreds and thousands of other causes where that extra $1, extra $2 can go, or pay it forward. Maybe buy somebody else's coffee, or leave a tip somewhere else, because not everywhere else has living wage. So save that for your next meal somewhere and just pay it forward.
Do you tip when you're out?
I do, yeah.
And who do you tip? Who would be on your list of people to tip?
I always tip because I feel like when you work those jobs, you just know what it feels like, and it's not the person that you're giving the tip to typically is not the person who has a choice whether or not you're tipping. They're just at the end of that sort of totem pole that's just saying, like, I'm just trying to live. I'm just trying to get by. And whether that's a server or a hospitality person or anyone in any other industry that has a tip, your barber, anything. A lot of times, it is nice to tip if somebody does give you good service. Like, there's always the argument of, why did tipping become a thing in the first place? Well, it was to motivate workers to exemplify and, build up the company they work for. But a lot of times, there isn't even an opportunity to do that before they're asking you to tip. Like, you're tipping a delivery driver that you've never received service from? How do you know it's going to be good or not? How do you know that you want a tip? So, I mean, it's tough, but
mechanic, gas attendant, hairstylist.
Absolutely.
The list.
Are you going to tip before that happens? Like, what if you get a bad haircut? Do you still want a tip? Do you not? I don't know.
So what do you think we'll do? What would you like to see society do when it comes to tipping? Because there's lots of people who are angry about tipflation, tip creep. Yeah. There are lots of words to talk about what we're experiencing right now. So what would you like to see as a society when it comes to tipping culture and the money that people make to offer a service?
I think as owners of businesses, we just have to take ownership of paying our employees. I understand that it can be nerve-wracking, it can be scary to raise your menu prices because we all know all of your cost of goods are going up. So I understand, but the public also does understand, and you have to give people a chance to understand your mission and what you're going for. But you have to be able to deliver the quality of that. Because the other side of this coin is if we say we're a living wage cafe and we have a more expensive menu, which we do, the quality has to be there because a customer is happy to pay it, but they expect quality for that.
Thanks for talking to me today. I appreciate it.
So if you're tired of tipping, you could go there, but let's be real. This is rare. Most places still prompt you to tip, and more places are asking you to do so. My colleague, Helena Mahalik, is younger than me, so it's fair to assume she goes out a lot more than I do these days. And so I asked her about tipping.
I understand the need to tip and living off tips. However, when it's places like, I don't know, I just bought a bottle of water and it's asking me for a tip, or even someplace like Subway, or it's a fine line with Starbucks because I kind of consider it like fast food coffee in a way. Even now places like McDonald's, Tim Hortons are asking for tips, and it's becoming a lot. I think if I'm sitting down someplace and enjoying my food and drink, then I'll tip, but if it's like a coming and go like fast food type, I don't want to tip.
New surveys say people are tipping less. Could this be a tipping point? Michael von Massow is a food economist at the University of Guelph.
We're getting a certain amount of fatigue where we're saying, look, where does this end? And I think the finding that people are saying that they're tipping less, this is a result of this framing, right? If we get on the on the machine a choice 10%, 18%, 20%, if we feel like they're pushing us too hard, we're more likely to go down even lower. So that framing can work and sort of nudge you to a higher number. But if you try and get nudged too hard, many of us are starting to push back. And I think that's what we're seeing here. People are saying, no, this is pushing us too far. And especially because we're being asked so aggressively, might be a bit strong a word, but you know, it used to be there was a little cup, and some cafes would have 2 cups and a little joke or a vote, you know, are you a fan of the Oilers or the Flames or whatever, something like that. Now it's coming up on the machine and it's really in your face. And I think people are finding that uncomfortable.
Well, why are we being asked for tips at more places?
Well, I think we're being asked in tips for more places because it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy. People are seeing more people ask. All it took was one person to say, oh, why don't we give it a try? It's possible now on the machine. Why not just enter it? I think that the technology has enabled it and has accelerated it to a significant degree. And so people are saying, why not? There's some motivation here. We're hearing people are having trouble hiring. And if you could say, well, we have a tipping and you get the tips and that's great. There are some benefits to companies to have tips versus paying more. Tips can be variable, but they're out of the control of the company. And so they don't have to commit to anything. If they transitioned to a to a payment method, it wouldn't just cost them higher wages, it costs them the payroll taxes as well. So, employers have to pay the EI premium and have to pay the Canada Pension Plan premium. So they're better off if it's not on their plate, so to speak. And so I think what's happening is they're saying, well, we don't pay very much. We're having trouble attracting people. Let's find other ways to make this attractive. And if I see it there, I've started to think, well, maybe I should have a tip jar or a little a QR code at the front of the lecture hall.
Hey.
And if I give a really good lecture, then they should, then students can
Yep.
give me a little bit, and it's funny because it's really changing how people are asking. I booked a haircut today, and
Yep.
I was asked, how much are you going to tip before I got my haircut?
You're kidding. That's never happened to me.
Online. So I booked the haircut. How much are you going to tip? That to me almost sounds threatening, because if I tip too little, it's hard to get my hair wrong, but if I tip too little, am I going to have a problem? So this is becoming much, much more aggressive, much more proactive, and
Yeah.
and I think people are getting tired of it.
There's something else to be aware of. According to Mike, tipping isn't always fair.
Young people, particularly young women, people of color, are perceived to be lower tippers, so will get poorer service even before they've tipped or not, because they are perceived at being lower tippers. And so as a restaurant owner or as a customer, do I really want people differentiated based on that perspective of them? If you and I go into the same restaurant and we order the exact same thing, but we have a different experience because you're a woman and I'm a white middle-aged male, that's not in either of our best interests. So I think there is that potential for sort of a difference of how people are treated. There's a lot of research. You wonder why someone writes their name on your bill with a little happy face, why they introduce themselves at the beginning. That raises the tip. So there are things that people do to sort of prompt us to tip more. We might we tip attractive people higher than we do unattractive. What's interesting, though, is particularly for men, I'm not proud of this, but particularly for men, we order more from less attractive servers, but we tip attractive servers more. So if I was a restaurateur, I might be better off hiring less attractive people because the bill would be bigger than hiring an attractive person where the tip will be bigger.
This is all a bit troubling, Mike.
Yes, no kidding. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to Out of Order Coffee in downtown Saskatoon, where they've ditched tips. They aren't dealing with all these things that Mike is warning about. So, could this be a way forward?
So I think there are examples of this sort of thing happening and it being successful. I think there are also examples of this sort of thing happening and it being unsuccessful. So it depends on who your customer base is. We looked at 10 restaurants that had gone no tipping, and we evaluated the average rating before and after, both on TripAdvisor and Yelp. And then we also did a text analysis of what people wrote. And on 9 out of 10 of them, the average rating didn't change at all. We also looked at variability. So, you might think, well, some people really loved it and some people really hated it, but the average was the same. Variability didn't change either. And in the one where both the average and the variability changed, the average rating went up. People appreciated it. I think the cafe owner said something interesting is, people are happy to do this, that to a degree, our last experience at a business is being asked for a tip. And if we're feeling uncomfortable with that, that's the thing we remember, right? They've done research that your last experience in a place is what you remember. And so for many people, it is uncomfortable. Now, it's not easy to do. I think it's easier to do in a cafe than it is in a restaurant, because in a cafe, they haven't historically counted on tips.
Right.
And so the staff might not be as averse to doing it, especially if they're earning more. In some cases where, in New York, Danny Meyer, a famous restaurateur, went no tipping, and the customers weren't unhappy with it, but staff was.
Interesting.
And so he lost staff because staff said, the reality of human nature is everyone thinks they're above average. and so they say, well, if you're paying me more, well, I would have made more than everyone else because I'm better than that. And so they started to lose people. The resistance is often on the staff side and not on the customer side. So I think we'll see it slowly happen. I think customers will respond to it. Where we've seen it be successful are places often that have regular customers, so they get used to it. Places that are tourism businesses where you have to train your customers continuously because they're always newer, they've struggled to do it a little more because at the start, some people are uncomfortable. So I think it's easier if more companies do it simultaneously than if we do it sort of one at a time. But I wouldn't be surprised if over the next 5, 10, 20 years, we really see a move away from tipping. I want to respect the fact that servers and other people work hard and deserve a living wage. That might mean we pay more. It will mean we'll pay more, but we won't be paying tips, so the net might be pretty close to the same.
Yeah. Matt, the co-owner of Out of Order Coffee, says they do charge more because they pay their staff a living wage. According to Matt, a living wage is paying someone enough so they can cover their basic needs. And basic needs are things like food, clothing, housing, transportation, and childcare. At Out of Order, staff make $22 an hour, and they get full-time healthcare benefits. Meanwhile, minimum wage in Saskatchewan, which just went up a few days ago, is $15.35. It's the second lowest minimum wage in the country. Alberta is the lowest at $15. I'm Leisha Gravinsky. Thanks to Nicole Huck for help on this episode. You can find This is Saskatchewan on all your favorite podcast apps like Spotify and Apple. Be sure to hit the follow button. And remember, Friday, we'll be talking politics. We'll also have a brand new episode in the feed for you on Tuesday. We'll talk to you then.